Welcome, everyone, to another deep dive. Today, we're jumping into the world of, well, really precise watchmaking. We're going to explore the story behind the new Minase Uruga with that ice blue dial. It's more than just a good-looking watch, really. It's a great example of how a brand builds a unique identity through just incredible craftsmanship.
Exactly. And our mission today basically is to look past the surface specs and really dig into what makes this particular Uruga stand out. Look at where it came from, its design details, and the philosophy behind this specific release.
Okay, sounds good. Let's start with Minase itself. Might be a newer name for some listeners, but they have pretty deep roots. It's a Japanese brand, started in 2005, but the parent company, Kiowa Co., they've been in precision machining since the 60s. And what's really interesting, I think, is that Minase didn't start making whole watches. They were specialists in cases and bracelets first.
Yeah, and that foundation and metalwork, it really shaped everything for them. Their philosophy, it's almost obsessively focused on the aesthetics, the intricate case construction, sometimes even, prioritizing that over pushing movement innovation purely for its own sake.
Right. So it's not just about the engine inside.
Not solely, no. It's a strategic choice, really. It carves out a niche. They elevate the case to an art form, appealing to people who value that external artistry, that unique architecture. You see it in their other models, like the 5 windows, 7 windows, even the DeVito. They all have that unmistakable kind of angular Minese look, even when they're round.
So, okay, Minase is known for those bold architectural shapes. What happens when they dial it back a bit, soften the edges? That seems to be the idea behind the Uruga collection. It's described as having a softer visual language,
Huh.
more classical maybe?
Yeah, a little more classical, but still very Minese. It's about translating that core identity into a, well, slightly different form factor.
So let's get into the specifics of this new 42 millimeter one. We've got a stainless steel case, 10.2 millimeter thick, which is pretty comfortable, and obviously that ice blue dial, very current, very eye-catching.
Definitely. But the real standout feature of the case, the thing that screams Minase, is that clamping case structure.
Mm.
It's apparently inspired by gem setting. You have these four angular clamps that like visually hold the sapphire crystal.
Ah, okay, I see that.
Yeah, and it creates this great contrast, right? The brushed clamps against the mirror polished facets around them. Makes the crystal almost look like it's floating.
You mentioned mirror polished facets. They look incredibly sharp in the pictures. Is there a special technique they use for that? Because that level of polishing is, well, it's a big deal.
Oh, absolutely. And this is where Minase really shines, literally. They use the Salaz polishing method. You might also know it as Zaratsu.
Right, Zaratsu. Heard that term mainly with Grand Seiko before.
Exactly. It's that same legendary technique.
Mm-hmm.
Incredibly time-consuming, needs immense skill. You're essentially pressing the case against a spinning plate at just the right angle. The whole point is to get these perfectly flat, distortion-free surfaces with super sharp edges. It reflects light in a really unique way, almost liquid-like. It's top-tier Japanese finishing.
Wow. Okay, so beyond that amazing polish, what else defines the case?
Well, the sapphire crystal itself, it's slightly domed. It follows the curve of the bezel nicely, which gives it a sophisticated look. Water resistance is 50 meters, so, good for everyday life, splashes, rain, not for swimming or anything.
Standard stuff for the style, yeah.
And then on the back, you've got a screw-down sapphire case back, held by 6 screws. Gives you a nice view of the movement inside.
Okay, let's talk about that dial then. The first thing you notice is that horizontal pattern. It's embossed, right?
Yeah, it's an embossed pattern.
Oh,
And it's not random. It's inspired by the waves on the Minase River, which is actually near their workshop up in Akita. A nice touch.
that is a nice connection. Adds a bit of story.
And this ice blue color, specifically, it just gives it that cool modern feel we mentioned. It works really well with the applied hour markers. They're faceted, so they catch the light really well. Makes it easy to read.
And the hand?
Alpha-style hands,
Mm-hmm.
also faceted, broad at the base, tapering to a point. They've got both brushed and polished surfaces, adding more texture. Oh, and there's a little metallic frame around the date window at 3 o'clock. Subtle, but nicely done.
So overall, maybe simpler than some other Minis designs, but still very precisely executed.
Exactly. It's simpler in form, maybe, but the execution is still absolutely meticulous. Everything feels deliberate.
Okay, we've covered the outside in pretty good detail. That clamping case, the Zaratsu polish, it's impressive stuff, but, for a watch like this, what's inside matters too.
Yeah.
So let's look under the hood. What's powering this 42 millimeter Uruga?
Right. Inside, you've got the caliber KT7002.
Yeah.
And this is interesting because while it starts with a well-known base, the ETA 2892,
A solid, reliable movement.
very solid, very respected. But Minase doesn't just drop it in unchanged. They call it extensively reworked.
Mm.
So they're putting their own touch on it. You can see some of that through the case back. There's perlage on the
Well,
plates.
circular patterns.
Yeah, exactly. Diamond polished bevels for sharp edges, blued screws, which look great and add some corrosion resistance, and a skeletonized rotor. So you get a better view of the mechanism. It's their way of applying that same artisanal philosophy to the movement itself, even if it's based on an existing caliber.
Makes sense. And the technical specs, it runs at 28,800 vibrations per hour, so that's 4 hertz, giving you a nice smooth sweep on the second's hand. It also has the second hand stops when you pull the crown for precise setting. And the power reserve is around 50 hours. Pretty decent.
Yeah, solid specs for
Yeah.
sure. Now, if you're thinking about getting one, the 42mm Uruga, there are a few choices for how it comes. You can get it on a textured rubber strap, which looks quite sporty, or a hand-stitched leather strap that has a deplant clasp.
That's the folding buckle, right?
Exactly. Makes it easier to put on, take off, and saves wear on the strap. Or, for a fully integrated look, there's a stainless steel bracelet option.
Okay, and what about pricing? Looks like it's USD 5,500 on either the rubber or the leather strap. And if you want the steel bracelet, that bumps it up to USD 7,100.
Right. And it's worth mentioning, too, Minase also made a smaller version. There's a 31mm Uruga Ice Blue. It keeps all the key design elements, that clamping case, the finishing, but it's obviously smaller, uses an ETA 2671 automatic movement.
A smaller ETA caliber, yeah.
And this one has diamond set hour markers. So it's maybe, yeah, a bit more feminine in style, but still clearly a Minase Uruga. That one's priced at USD 5,200 on a rubber strap. Shows they're thinking about different wrist sizes and preferences.
Absolutely. Well, this has been a really fascinating look into the Minus Uruga. It really shows how a brand can blend that kind of deep heritage and precision engineering with a very unique, almost artistic approach to watchmaking. They're definitely creating pieces that, they stand out. They don't just blend in.
They really do. It makes you think, doesn't it? As you appreciate all these little details, the polish, the case structure, the dial pattern, maybe consider this. When does a simple, elegant design actually reveal the most profound craftsmanship? And what kinds of details and other objects around you, maybe something completely different, capture your attention as signs of real artistry, real care?